Last Sabbath, there were few of us here in the church. Most of the brethren were up north at Shalom by the lake for the winter youth retreat. It was a lovely event, maybe one of the largest we have had in recent history. We are safely back. Snow is here, still outside. Nice scenery, not nice to ride, to drive cars on the road, but I appreciate efforts of those who have come this morning to the church, especially those driving longer distances. Last Sabbath, I presented a topic on the signs of the times. Jaromir was kind. He was one-man team, or media team, and he recorded and posted the presentation. And there was a quite interesting the topic, so I decided to carry on. So I will be talking about the signs of the times, second part today, and share with you more information, although I will not be able to cover everything what could be said on this topic. It's very important. I mentioned to someone last week how I feel. There was recently an earthquake in Turkey, and as you know, thousands, tens of thousands of people have perished. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people are homeless, and we want to help. We are glad to learn that Brother Dorin contacted us and advised that one brother from Moldova, he will be traveling to Ukraine, and he can personally organize delivery of help to Turkey, and he will be able to organize delivery of this help. So we urge you to support as much as you can. But there was a very interesting incident. One lady was in a building, and a few minutes before the earthquake, it was her dog started to bark and to pull her by her skirt and pull her, calling her out. She didn't know what was going on, but she simply thought dog has something outside to show her. So she walked out of the building. A few moments later on, the earthquake struck, and the whole building collapsed. She was saved. So, brethren, we have a prophetic intelligence briefing for our time. Signs and warnings about the time in which we live, what's coming. And I also have some premonition. I feel something like this dog, because dogs can hear the frequencies, animals that humans cannot hear from deep inside. So I have somehow something telling me that something is coming. There is such unsettled state of society and state of nature. Last Sabbath I spoke about signs in nature. I will cover them briefly today. But I'd like to share with you something that's very important, especially for us who know the prophecies for the last days. We know there is a prophetic period of 1260 days or years, stretching for 538. Why is 538 important? This was the year when the Pope was acknowledged by the Emperor of the Roman Empire as the supreme head of all of the church, over all other bishops, Bishop of Rome. 1798, why is it important? In that year, another emperor, Napoleon, sent his army to Rome, to Vatican, and took the Pope captive. So this secular head of the papacy was wounded, but we are told the wound will be, healed. We will talk about that today. Now we have another great prophetic period, which is 2,300 days, stretching from 457 BC to 1844 AD. Starting year, the decree to rebuild Jerusalem. Ending year is what? Judgment in heaven beginning, before the second coming of Jesus. We call it pre-Advent judgment, preceding the second coming, because when Jesus comes, second time in clouds of heaven, he will bring his reward, so there must be a judgment. We are living in a judgment day. We know this was fulfilled. Last Sabbath we mentioned there were signs announcing the end of these prophetic periods. There was a great earthquake in Lisbon, 1755. There was a dark day, 1780. And there was a falling of stars or meteoric shower, 1833. See, there were signs already. Now, we have been preaching this message of Jesus soon coming for over 170 years. And many people say, oh, you've been preaching Jesus is coming, but Jesus is not coming. Nothing is happening with this. Who knows how long the world will go on and life will, be as usual. But brethren, people will be surprised because Jesus told us specifically in the day that you don't think I will come. And what will be that? That will be the close of probation. Everyone will see when Jesus will be coming. There will be terrible signs, but close of probation is critical. However, none of us has waited 170 years. None of us has lived so long. So, people died. However, Jesus is the one who is waiting longest. He's been waiting all this period, longer than any one of us. And then on that Mount of Olives, before his sacrifice and his suffering, he told when his disciples looked from the mount to the temple, and they were amazed at the beauty of the temple, he told them, not one stone will be left unturned. And they asked when this will be and what is the sign of your coming. So they understood temple destruction. Temple is the same thing as second coming of Jesus. So let's read in Matthew 24, verses 2 and 3. And Jesus said unto them, see not all these things. Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. Tell us, when shall these things be? They ask. And what shall be the sign of the coming and of the end of the world? So they're asking two questions. One question is when this will be that the temple will be destroyed. First question. Second question is what will be the sign of your soon coming? So Christ was answering both questions. When the temple will be destroyed, Jerusalem destroyed, and what will be the signs of his second coming. However, please keep in mind that some signs preceding the destruction of the temple will be similar to the signs before his second coming. Keep in mind. So let's read. And then Christ warned them, Brother Dalibor read these verses similar. Learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, you know that summer is nigh. This is important to understand. What does it mean? Christ is saying, when you see certain signs in nature, you know which season is coming. So I'm giving you signs. I'm giving you signs that you take note, that you know that when you see these signs, something is coming. So likewise, when you shall see all these things, signs we will be talking today about, know that it is near, even at the doors. Therefore be also ready, for in such an hour as you think not, the Son of Man cometh. Finally, he's closing his speech with a warning, be ready. When you see these signs, be ready. Please remember this. When we come to the end of our study today, remember what you should take out from this room. You should take this. When you see the signs, you'll be ready. That is important. You see, the sermon has accomplished its purpose when people leave the sermon and not saying, oh, what a great speech. But when they say, what shall I do now after the sermon? What is my duty? Then sermon has hit, the nail in a right place. Let me give you a statement from a spirit of prophecy. Brethren, this is a tremendous privilege for us to have this insight, prophetic insight for the prophet from the last days. There are in the world today many who close their eyes to the evidences that Christ has given to warn men of his coming. They seek to quiet all apprehension, while at the same time the signs of the end are rapidly fulfilling, and the world is hastening to the time when the Son of Man shall be revealed in the clouds of heaven. Some people are simply saying, please don't be an alarmist. Well, the signs have been all the time since Jesus left the earth. Paul teaches that it is sinful to be indifferent to the signs which are to precede the second coming of Christ. Do you see what it is? If we are careless about the signs, it is sinful attitude. Those guilty of this neglect, he calls children of the night and of darkness. These are people who sleep, who don't care about the signs. He encourages the vigilant and watchful with these words. But you, brethren, are not in darkness, that day should overtake you as a thief. You are the children of light and the children of the day. We are not of the night, nor of darkness. Therefore, let us not sleep, as do others, but let us watch and be sober. This is Acts of Apostles 1:60. So, I know you have a work to do on Monday. You may have exams if you're young people attending schools. Some people are contemplating marriage this year. Some people are building, selling, buying. Yeah, we have to do these things. No problem. But remember this. Remember this. I mentioned last Sabbath. All these activities can come to a screeching halt in a very short time. So this is why we should watch these signs. Be constantly aware what may happen. Today we'll be talking about several signs. There will be 7 that I will mention today briefly. I spoke about some last time. Signs in the political world, signs in the natural world, signs in the social world, signs in financial world, signs as a decline of morality, Pope Francis and the Sunday agenda, and finally gospel going in all the world. These are the signs. Let me start. War and rumors of war. This is the image from tanks rolling in Ukraine. As I mentioned last Sabbath, we have never believed that there will be such a major war in a European continent. And war is going on, and war is escalating. If you notice the news, both sides are not showing any readiness for peace talks. Both sides are digging in, bringing more weapons, and the war will be more bloody. Sad. Thousands of people, young men and population civil, are dying. My heart aches when I hear and I look at this, what's going on in Ukraine. Both Ukrainian and Russian people, I feel very sorry. This was unnecessary war, but the war happened. And now, once the blood is shed, people are pushing for more war. So, but brethren, why is this important when we talk about wars as a sign of, because wars have been in the last 2,000 years, wars. But in the Second World War, we have never had so many wars and such deadly wars as in the 20th century. This is from Stalingrad. This is the Pacific, in the war in the Pacific. Second World War. You know how many people died in the First and Second World War? 69 million people. This is Hiroshima. We have never had something like this. Enola Gay. They simply dropped. This is devastation following that terrible attack. 100,000 people died in a few seconds. Now, we cannot talk, I will just pause here. I will not talk about the Third World War. I don't think there will be Third World War because this will be the end of the human civilization. There will be wars, but I believe next World War will be the end of the human race. So let me talk about war casualties. More than 69 million people died in the First and Second World War. More people died in the last 100 years than in all other wars in Earth's history combined. The last 100 years, more people died in all wars in the past. Now, another problem is terrorism, domestic and international terrorism. These are the images, Twin Towers. We know that several thousand people died. Planes hit. So terrorist attacks are something that is coming. Suicide bombers. We are not safe anywhere anymore. Then let's talk about prophecy about terrorism. I read from Third Selected Messages, page 418. There will be secret plotting to destroy life. Destruction, misery, and death will be seen on every hand. Wow. See, in prophet saw in vision secret plans plotting to destroy life. Terrorist activities. Now let me talk about millions of refugees. Now I have an image here Syrian war, brothers and sisters, 4 million refugees. Could you imagine you leave your home with only that what you carry in your hands, in your arms? That's it. You leave your home, never to see your home again. Horrible thing. And then you see how they lived in Syrian refugees in Turkey, in the tents. And some of them, it's a very poor accommodation. And then COVID-19 hit and there was casualties. But then some of them were sadly moved into the buildings in Turkey. And now the earthquake hit that region. And so many of these refugees, Syrian who were living in Turkey, died. So it's terrible tragedy. Now let me show you the signs in the natural world. I'm going quickly through this part. This is devastation in Turkey, earthquake, completely leveled buildings. Nothing, everything down. I'll give you more images. The next one, see, horrible. Next one, roads. This is unbelievable. You see what the earthquake did to the roads. There are caverns that are in the soil, going kilometers. Now here we have a next one, a search dog looking for survivors in Turkey. Again, an image, cranes and these trying to work, for looking for survivors. That are listening. Another one, there is a port city, and there is a burning because there was a fire. Next one, young man, I showed this last Sabbath. Young man came to the building where he lived, and he is listening to the signs if anyone is there in the building calling for help, his relatives, close family members. He's so stressed. Now this image went through the world. The man who was, next one, who was holding the hand of his daughter, she was alive, and then she died. I mean, it's heartbreaking when you look at this. These are the scenes in the world. Another one, young boy survived. Father is embracing him, he is crying. Few survived. Next one, a lady sitting outside. It is a winter time, it's cold, and she is without home. Think about this. These are the scenes. Now let me go to the next natural disasters that you have seen before. 9.0 magnitude on Richter scale, earthquake and tsunami in Japan, March 11, 2011. You don't know what happened. Devastation, unprecedented devastation. Even nuclear power plant was affected. Thousands of people died. Now, next one, earthquakes. We had earthquakes more and more. This is January 12, 2010, 7.0 earthquake that hit Haiti. Over 200,000 people died, 250,000 residences destroyed, 1 million people without homes. 2010, Haiti. Now the next one is flooding in China. Just a couple of years ago, we had terrible flooding in China. Then next one, flooding and landslide in Germany. This is also unprecedented in Germany, something like this. Then forest fires all over the world. It was Australia, it was North America, it was Europe. You're having forest fires. Huge land surfaces are burned down. Then terrific or terrible winds. I have a next one. This is Alabama, March 25, 2021. These tornadoes are just devastating. And then I will mention something from, this is, I think, from Philippines. Aerial view of Guiana, town where Typhoon Haiyan made its landfall November 11, 2013. Over 6,300 people died. These are the strongest typhoons on record. Look at the devastation, that next image that this typhoon left. Then tornadoes in Europe, Czech Republic. Next image. See, also unprecedented in Europe. So let me read a statement about natural science as a sign. Raven Herald, May 21, 1901. Important events are about to take place. While the world is asking in scorn, where is the promise of his coming? The signs are rapidly fulfilling. While men are crying, peace and safety, sudden destruction is coming. The Spirit of God is being withdrawn from the earth, and calamity is following calamity by land and by sea. Tempests and earthquakes, fires and floods are heard of on every hand. Only in God can security be found. Last Sabbath I mentioned this, brethren, please note this phrase. As the Spirit of God is being withdrawn, what's happening? More destruction. Why? Satan is the one who causes destruction, not God at this time. Satan. So God's Spirit, people are rebellious and ungodly. Spirit of God is being withdrawn. Satan has more control and bringing this devastation. I also read last time that he is working in the laboratory of nature, creating deadly viruses and diseases. One brother who is a scientist, a molecular biologist, Seventh Adventist, and professor, he is saying when you look at viruses, their structure, he said, it looks strange, like some supernatural power was involved in working with the viruses. So Satan is involved, but he's also working with evil people here on earth. They're working in cahoots. So this is what's happening right now. So we know this is happening because the Spirit of God is being withdrawn. Now the signs in the social world, as it was in days of Noah, we know that. Let's see, let me read a statement from 2 Timothy 3, verses 1 to 7. That's quite interesting what Paul wrote, how the society will be in the last days. And just think about our times and society right now. These know also that in the last days, perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good. Let's go on, the list is long. Traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof, from such turn away. Can we see these signs today? Yeah. Are people lovers of themselves? Yeah. Are people disobedient to their parents? Yeah. Oh yeah, without natural affection, and so on. You can go on and on, right? High-minded, heady, traitors. And then Paul says more. For of this sort are they which creep into houses and lead captive silly women laden with sins, led away with divers lusts, ever learning, never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. Today you are having one, I remember the statement one gentleman said, Christian man, he said, we have educated ourselves to imbecility. You are having so many PhDs as never before in the world. And at the same time, people are doing such foolish things as never before. As the sound mind and reason has left people, this is the age in which we live. This is the state of the society. Now let me talk about the financial world, the science in the financial world. I could talk more about society, I can speak several sermons. Now what do we see in the financial world today? What are the signs? I'll give you some images. This is the executive of Bear Stearns, now held by the law enforcement because of financial mishandling. You know this face? Bernie Madoff. He was managing one of the largest funds in the world. He was a member of Security and Exchange Commission, New York Stock Exchange. And he was accused of embezzling in a Ponzi scheme, $65 billion lost. 5,000 investors defrauded. One of the most trusted men on the Wall Street. Now, that's the world in which we live. You know this face? Sam Bankman. Cryptocurrency fraud. Also one of the largest in history. That's the world in which we live, brothers and sisters. Finances, world of finances. There is a greed and exploitation. Look what Spirit of Prophecy says. The scriptures describe the condition of the world just before Christ's second coming. James the Apostle pictures the greed and oppression that will prevail. He says, go to now, you rich man. You have heaped treasure together for the last days. Behold, the hire of the laborers who have reaped down your fields, which is of you kept back by fraud, cried, and the cries of them which have reaped are entered into the ears of the Lord Sabaoth. You have lived in pleasure on the earth and been wanton. You have nourished your hearts as in day of slaughter. You have condemned and killed the just, and he doth not resist you. This is from James 5, 1-6. This is a picture of what exists today. By every species of oppression and extortion, men are piling up colossal fortunes, while the cries of starving humanity are coming up before God. Is this true? Absolutely true. You know what are the compensation of Wall Street bankers, executives? Together salary and then, stock options and bonuses. It can come $10, $20, $30 million a year. Average middle class worker in the United States earns what? $40,000, $50,000 a year. Now I ask you, how many years you have to work to earn what he earns in 1 year? Your whole lifetime you cannot earn what he earns maybe in 1 month. Gap between rich and poor has never been greater than today. And this is now the talk in the business and financial world and politics. This is well-known fact. This is the world in which we live. This is Christ Object Lessons 170. So we know this financial recklessness in 2007, 2008, subprime mortgage crisis. What the banks were doing, you know that? Banks were actually recklessly giving loans to people who cannot repay their mortgages. And then the whole system collapsed. They were so greedy. They were repackaging these mortgages and selling, as collateral, securities. So banks, when they collapsed, these banks went bankrupt, then the government came to rescue the banking system. Could you imagine that? They were simply the banks are privatizing the profit, but when they're operating at loss, then the government socializes the loss. So from taxpayers' money, we are now rescuing the banking system. Because they are too big to fail. Oh, yeah. Yeah. This is unbelievable. So from 2009 to 2011, nearly 12 million American families lost their homes to foreclosure. They didn't finance these people, but they financed these, fat people on the Wall Street. Now, the second thing, U.S. national debt clock. You can go on the internet and find it. 31.6 trillion. 3 billion every day, or 1 trillion a year. Is increasing. Could you imagine? 3 billion every day. The clock is ticking. Bankruptcy is looming on national and even city level. Detroit filed for bankruptcy protection a few years ago. Americans' total credit card balance is $986 billion in the fourth quarter of 2022. Almost 1 trillion. This is credit card balance. So both sovereign debt, government debt, and the private debt are skyrocketing. And at some point, this will crash. Student loan debt, some students who are here, take note, in the United States totals 1.757 trillion. The outstanding federal loan balance is 1,635 trillion. 43.5 million borrowers with federal student loan debt. The average federal student loan debt balance is 37,574, and so on. So this is the reality. The average public university student borrows $35,000 to attain bachelor's degree. So they're loading, burdening the young generation with these loans. And what is very interesting, these loans are government guaranteed, so they cannot be discharged in bankruptcy. Even if you bankrupt, you have to pay them. So the only way to either to pay them off or to die. There is no way to get rid of them. So this is the source, if you go further down. Yeah. So let me go to the next one, decline of morality. What happened? Did I press something here? Just a moment, maybe I pressed or... Well, about decline of morality, this is the photo of the White House in June of 2015. What happened then? A sad day for the U.S. June 26, 2015 was a very sad day for the U.S. and the state of Tennessee. The U.S. Supreme Court issued its ruling in the Obergefell versus Hodges case, the majority, very thin majority, 5-4. The court's majority said that the U.S. Constitution guarantees the same-sex marriage. This case accelerated America's slide down the slippery slope of disregard for God and His Word. Now, what is interesting in the next image, you can see this is the United States Supreme Court building, and that is in the roof, that triangle there, gables. Here in the middle, you are having Moses with two tables of stone, 10 Commandments. To his right is Greek legislator great Solon, and to left is Confucius. So they wanted to represent both Eastern and Eastern civilization and the Western, Greek. Now, in my opinion, Moses is now not cared for, but they are moving into pagan cultures. See, interestingly, they put it over there many years ago. So there was celebration. Next image, happiness. And what is also interesting, in the next image, you're having the Pope speaking in the US Congress, and you don't see, at the very top, there is a engraved, "In God we trust." How much they trust in God, I'm wondering, United States Congress and the legislators in the Supreme Court. Let me go on to give you some data. President Obama stated, "We have made our union a little more perfect," when this Supreme Court ruling was made. But what Franklin Graham, the son of Billy Graham, said, "Long before our government came into existence, marriage was created by Almighty God." Jesus said, "From the beginning of creation, God made them male and female." The court did not define marriage, and therefore it is not entitled to redefine it. It seems as though immorality not only reigns in America, but is now celebrated. There is no hope for our nation from any political party. The only hope for America is God. Look, we agree with him, absolutely. This is the moral state of the nation. And Canada, not any better, maybe even worse. So, brethren, these are the signs of the times. Then, as I mentioned, Obama said we have made our union a little more perfect. Many people of color have celebrated, they were very happy when Obama was elected to become a president, first, black president in the United States. But after he ended his presidency, many people, Christian black people, are saying this man did a lot of damage to our country. And I agree with that. So let me go to the next one. But there was dissenting opinions. 4 Supreme Court justices dissented, even the Chief Justice Roberts. Look what he said. "You can celebrate the availability of new benefits, but do not celebrate the Constitution. It had nothing to do with it. People of faith can take no comfort in the treatment they receive from the majority today." See? The late Justice Scalia, "The Supreme Court has become a threat to American democracy. This decision robs the people of the most important liberty, the freedom to govern themselves." So there are some justices and there are some people who think differently, but you see, majority is pushing. However, brethren, keep in mind that the enemy is playing a very clever game. He's pushing people first into one extreme, secular, humanist, godless. And when it goes to that, then pendulum will swing, as we know, to another extreme. Now, this is an interesting lady. Next image. Kim Davis, Rowan County, Kentucky court clerk. She refused to issue a marriage license to the same-sex couples based on her religious convictions. She spent 6 days in jail for contempt of the court. Wow, brave lady. Next image. She was, put in the court, although she worked for the court. Now, let me ask you a question. What do you think once the Sunday law will be legislated and the Supreme Court will affirm it, and you do not comply with it, what will happen to you? Huh? Yeah, you see? Same thing. Same thing. See, this is something to watch. Now let's move to the next one, Pope Francis and Sunday agenda. This is Pope speaking at the General Assembly of the United Nations in New York. The world is listening. Do you know the statement that the wound will be inflicted, but then the wound will be healed, and the whole world wandered after the beast? Absolutely. So we know, I cannot go through it, we have the image of the sea beast, first beast in Revelation 13, and this is the papacy. This is papacy. And 7 heads, 10 horns, 1 head is wounded, and then the deadly wound was healed. Then we have a second beast, and this is the lamb-like 2-horned beast coming out of the earth, which is who? United States of America. But what we are told about this beast, next text. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon, and he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. So United States will be doing as the first beast, which is who? Papacy. They will work together. So United States will exhibit the same spirit and act in the same way as the first beast. And this is simply union of church and state and persecution of dissenters. Now, it says that this beast will perform miracles and even bringing fire from heaven. So this is something that I'm thinking about today, what they will do, what this could be. I heard that the war is moving to the space. There are new devices that are putting in the space satellites and weapons and who knows what. We might see natural and supernatural phenomena in the future. What else this power will do? Verse 12. And he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and caused the earth and them that which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. So the second beast, United States, will do everything what was doing the first beast. It will make the image or replica of the first beast, union of church and state. And what? Cause, which means force, the earth and them that which dwell therein to worship the first beast, to worship the papacy. Wow, that's impressive. Verse 14, and deceived them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by a sword and did live. So, brethren, this text tells us clearly, unmistakably today, please pay attention, that United States and papacy will work together. We have to watch for the signs today. And they're working, absolutely. Absolutely. I will show you in a moment. So this alliance today is the driving force in the world that will bring final conflict. Image. You know what is this? The late Pope Benedict XVI. And who is here? Nancy Pelosi, former Speaker of the House, third in line after President, Vice President, kissing the ring, Pope Benedict. And look, George Bush is just watching what she's doing, right? Yeah, and Condoleezza Rice is there as well, yeah? But she is not alone, very powerful. She's a Catholic, of course. Leon Panetta, former CIA director and Defense Secretary of the United States, same thing, kissing the ring of the Pope. They owe supreme allegiance to the Pope first, and then to the nation. Although they say differently, but don't believe that. You know, all United States secrets, CIA director, he knows everything, right? He is who is superior. But this is not everything. Supreme Court. Out of 9 justices, 6 are Roman Catholics. In this image, we are having just 2, 1 Jewish and 2 Protestants. And one is not even fully Protestant. He was raised up as Catholic, and now is Episcopalian. Let me share with you something statement from the Gallup website. Very interesting about a recent Senate confirmation of the Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. In her Senate Judiciary confirmation hearings in March, Supreme Court nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson was asked by South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, "What faith are you, by the way?" Jackson replied that she was a non-denominational Protestant. Jackson, who was confirmed by the Senate on Thursday, will be only the second Protestant on the High Court when she joins the court this summer, along with Neil Gorsuch, which is Episcopalian but was raised Catholic. The justice whom Jackson will replace, Stephen Breyer, is Jewish, as is Elena Kagan, who remains on the court. Now, what's interesting, what this secular source says, look at this, next screen. The remaining 6 justices, John Roberts, Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, Sonia Sotomayor, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett, all are Catholic. Thus, the court will consist of 6 Catholics, 2 Protestants, and 1 Jew. This is not reflective of the US population, as has been widely discussed in recent years. Our latest estimate from January 2021 through March of this year shows that about 22% of the adult population identifies as Catholic in the United States, as opposed to the 67% Catholic, or 2/3, representation on the court. 2% of the population identifies as Jewish, and Kagan represents 11% of the 9 justices. The biggest disproportionality comes in terms of Protestants. About 45% of Americans are non-Catholic Christian or Protestant, compared with what will be 22% Protestant representation on the court. So this is Gallup poll, and their site. I have it referenced down here. So they're saying representation, if you go by confession, denominational, whatever representation, the Supreme Court is overwhelmingly Catholic. Now you may ask the question, why is this so? That's quite a good question. Do you know that 28 accredited US law schools are run by Catholics? Prestigious law schools. What they're doing, they were simply establishing reputable universities and law schools and training future rulers of the nation. And now the Supreme Court is filled with these people. And there is a special system how they recruit them. Let me give you the statement strength of prophecy. This is great controversy, page 565. But Romanism as a system, look, she's very careful, distinguishing system from individual Roman Catholic people, believers. There are wonderful people in Roman Catholic Church, but it's a system. But Romanism as a system is no more in harmony with the gospel of Christ now than at any former period in her history. The Protestant churches are in great darkness, or they would discern the signs of the times. The Roman Church is far-reaching in her plans and modes of operation. She is employing every device to extend her influence and increase her power in preparation for a fierce and determined conflict to regain control of the world, to reestablish persecution, and to undo all that Protestantism has done. Hear that? Next screen. Catholicism is gaining ground upon every side. See the increasing number of her churches and chapels in Protestant countries. Look at the popularity of her colleges and seminaries in America, so widely patronized by Protestants. Look at the growth of ritualism in England and the frequent defections to the ranks of the Catholics. These things should awaken the anxiety of all who prize the pure principles of the gospel. Great controversy, page 565. Brethren, do you hear that? Is this happening? Amen. Before our very eyes. This is happening. See, we mentioned the Supreme Court. But you can look, and I'll give you. Next image. Tony Blair converted to Catholicism. Here is with the Pope. Of course, they have reception at the highest level in the Roman Catholic Church. This man, next one, John McCloskey, Catholic Church, K Street lobbyist, priest of the Prelature of Opus Dei. K Street in Washington is the street where the lobbyists. Hear about Opus Dei? Opus Dei is not just ordinary order. This is elite troop, units of the Roman Catholic Church that work to simply recruit non-Catholics into Catholic ranks and put them in the highest places in the government. And this man is very successful in managing to bring to Catholic ranks. I'll give you a few names. Next one, Sam Brownback, former senator, Republican from Kansas, converted to Roman Catholicism. Next one, Newt Gingrich, former Speaker of the House of the US Congress, converted to Catholicism. He's the most powerful man in the nation. Next one, Jeb Bush, former governor of Florida, converted to Roman Catholicism. Protestants, all Protestants before. And then we are having current governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, Italian. I mean, he's doing many good things. I'm not against the man, but he's Roman, very devoted Roman Catholic, went to all their schools. Now, how about Pope in diplomacy? Next image. Cuba, the late Castro, Fidel Castro. Papacy is very interested in snow. Okay. We are a little bit sensitive at this moment. We talk about serious business here. So, Vatican is making efforts to reconcile Cuba with the United States. And every pope now in recent history, he's coming. Pope Francis is also there, next image, with Raul Castro, Fidel's brother, and sending message to the United States. Let me give you a statement from the Pope's diplomacy. Pope Francis played a key role in finalizing a deal to open relations between the United States and Cuba for the first time in 53 years, President Obama said. Aside from President Obama and the Cuban president, the pontiff was the only other foreign leader directly involved in these talks. This is from USA Today, December 17, 2014. Next image, where the Pope appears too. This is European Parliament in Strasbourg. He is addressing European Parliament. About 500 million people, communion, represented here, European nations. Next image, he is, and if you look at the men around him, they're all Roman Catholics, so most of them, have Italy, Spain, larger part of Germany, and go on, Poland. He's the leader, the hero. And then United States. The Pope visited the United States, speaking in the Congress, United States. Next image. And we see the beast and the false prophet. Again, he's addressing Congress. He's received ovation, standing ovation. This is unprecedented. A religious leader would speak to both houses of the Congress, Senate, and House of Representatives. And then on the balcony of the White House. This is a very impressive image. See, there are leaders around him, American leaders around him, and the people are there in front of him. And he's there, undisputed spiritual leader of the nation. And again, he's speaking at the UN General Assembly, this image addressing the world leaders. And now he has an agenda. He has an agenda I mentioned last Sabbath, global climate agenda. We have to address these issues. Two things, issue of poverty, finances, world finances to be reconstructed or reformed, and the climate. These are main issues that he is addressing. But let me give you a statement from page 605 from the Great Controversy. Heretofore, those who presented the truth of the third angel's message have often been regarded as mere alarmists. Their predictions that religious intolerance would gain control in the United States, the church and state would unite to persecute those who keep the commandments of God, have been pronounced groundless and absurd. You see, in the past, people say, no, this can never happen in the United States. But let me carry on. It has been confidently declared that this land could never become other than what it has been, the defender of religious freedom. But as the question of enforcing Sunday observance is widely agitated, the event so long doubted and disbelieved is seen to be approaching, and the third message will produce an effect which it could not have had before. So, brethren, as we move down the stream of time, what shall we see? We will see the signs of Sunday law coming. And when people see that, those who are even incredulous or skeptics will say, wow, possibly there is something, something is going on. And then the message that we preach will have a much greater power, impact on the population. And let me give you a little bit, this is Great Controversy, page 6 of 5. One more statement from Great Controversy. The sins of Babylon, what will happen in the future? The sins of Babylon will be laid open. The fearful results of enforcing the observance of the church by civil authority, the inroads of spiritualism, the stealthy but rapid progress of papal power, all will be unmasked. We are doing this today. By these solemn warnings, the people will be stirred. Thousands upon thousands will listen who have never heard words like these. In amazement, they hear the testimony that Babylon is the church, fallen because of her errors and sins, because of her rejection of the truth sent to her from heaven. So these will be proclaimed. In Seventh-day Adventism today, sadly, some people are speaking quietly. We should be speaking these things today. We should not keep quiet today. This is in the Great Controversy. We should know the hour. We should not be afraid if people call us alarmists. No, not at all. Now let me give you something about, next screen, Pope's Sunday agenda. On July 5, 2014, Pope Francis stated that keeping stores open on Sunday is not beneficial to society. He said that the priority should be not economic but human. Maybe it's time to ask ourselves if working on Sunday is true freedom. This is what Pope said. This was reported in the New York Daily News, July 6, 2014, Associated Press. And then, you heard about this encyclical, next screen. May 24, 2014, a revolutionary encyclical Laudato Si, praise be to you, addressed to every person living on the planet. The encyclical asserts that the way our global, complex society goes about industrial, financial, and resource allocation activities is reflective of selfishness and greed. So again, criticism, how the society is managed. Then he says, the encyclical, actually this is a summary, the encyclical deals extensively with the serious problems of the earth because of environmental pollution and the plight of the poor because of greed and materialism on the part of the rich. The Pope offers hope by making major changes in the management of the earth and its resources. And let me give you a statement. Paragraph 200, next screen, 237, he notes, on Sunday, our participation in the Eucharist, which is communion service, Mass, has special importance. Sunday, like the Jewish Sabbath, is meant to be a day which heals our relationship with God, with ourselves, with others, and the world. And so the day of rest, centered on the Eucharist, sheds light on the whole week and motivates us to greater concern for nature and the poor. So, what do you say? Is this happening? What the prophecy foretold? Oh, before our very eyes. The next screen. By the decree enforcing the institution of the papacy, this is great controversy, in violation of the law of God, our nation, United States, will disconnect herself fully from righteousness. When Protestantism shall stretch her hand across the gulf to grasp the hand of the Roman power, when she shall reach over the abyss to clasp hands with spiritualism, when under the influence of this threefold union, our country shall repudiate every principle of its constitution as a Protestant and Republican government, and shall make provision for the propagation of papal falsehoods and delusions, then we may know that the time has come for the marvelous working of Satan, and the end is near. Fifth Testimony 4:51. This is in the process of fulfillment, brothers and sisters. Rome is strengthening. I've been writing an article for our periodical on the Rome ancient Rome, pagan Rome, and papal Rome. People who do not study history in depth cannot understand what is wrong. Ancient Rome, Roman Empire, and modern Rome, papal Rome. There has never been in history such a power, political power in the world and military power. And if you read prophecies from Daniel, Daniel saw 4 beasts. He saw the lion, he saw the bear, he saw the leopard, and then saw 4th beast, terrible, dreadful, nondescript, you cannot describe it. Horrible, teeth, claws. And then he was wondering the truth about the 4th beast. He was not so much about the first 3 beasts, but the 4th beast. Why? Something very unusual. Not common. And that beast has metamorphosis, transformed, from one stage to another. But the same title, Pontifex Maximus, was the title of the Roman emperor. And this is the title of the Bishop of Rome. He just came into its seat. The dragon gave him his seat and power. And throughout world history, this power has operated through political entities, kings crowning, deposing, ruling the world, and trying to extend its influence. That's very interesting. Even this war in Ukraine right now, you have to look at also from the prophetic and biblical religious lenses. When the church divided in 1054, this was a great schism. The church divided in the eastern part and the western part. And this is a painful division which Rome tries to restore or bring back into unity by both proselytism and sometimes political and military means. So they were trying in the ancient times to penetrate the east. And they could not do it. So actually when Byzantine Empire collapsed in Constantinople in 6053 because of Ottoman Turks, then the center of Eastern Christianity moved to Moscow, to Russia. So now this is the center of gravity over there. So Rome is trying to bring back, into the fold that divided part of the Christianity. Now, what is very interesting, communism came and was an iron curtain, there was a tremendous power, but Rome was working together with who? United States. When? Under Reagan administration. You know that, how communism fell. They entered through Poland and so on and simply undermined communism and bring the collapse. But somehow, the work was not apparently finished properly because Russia was underneath, but then came Putin, and Putin was opponent, bringing back. So now what's happening, they want to finish the work. So United States has geopolitical interest in the East, Russia, and papacy has religious interests. So they are working together. They are continuing the work that was started, And I'm not now going into political realm because people, in Ukraine, they have their own interest in independence and so on. So I'm not dealing with that. But church finds its own interest and works in alliance to extend its influence over there. So if they succeed in that, Russia will be the next territory under control. And then China is next. And so on. So anyway, so this is what we are witnessing right now. Geopolitical, military, religious, this work is expanding. And we see, prophecy says, United States will repudiate every righteous principle of its constitution. We have to be very watchful and know what's going on. We cannot side with any political entity in the world today. No one. We have no part in any war. We are completely neutral. We don't take part in bloodshed and war, and we are not siding with anyone. We are just monitoring what's going on in the world and taking note in which direction they are moving. But we know that these powers will ultimately have control over the world and legislate someday. May God help us, brethren, to understand. And this is something with which I would like to finish this presentation. And this is the last thing that we would like to mention. Next screen. The gospel of the kingdom. What did Jesus say in verse 14 of Matthew 24? What did he say? And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world, and then shall the end come. So we also have to know what God will do in these days, not only what Satan is doing. God is now waiting for people who will spread the message throughout the whole world. And let me give you a final statement from the Spirit of Prophecy, which is very interesting. First selected message is 1:18. When divine power is combined with human effort, the work will spread like fire in the stubble. God will employ agencies whose origin men will be unable to discern. Angels will do a work which men might have had the blessing of accomplishing had they not neglected to answer the claims of God. So, brethren, divine power combined with human effort, the work will spread like a fire in the stubble. God will use simple human agents. We are told that few men educated in literary institutions will take part in this work, but these will be people who God will anoint with His Holy Spirit and power. So divine power with human effort. We have to position ourselves today to be used by God, by the Holy Spirit, in spreading the message. Because there will be an army that will be standing opposed to these dark forces, and this will be the army of God's remnant people who keep the commandment of God and have the faith of Jesus. May we be among them. It's my wish and prayer. Amen.